What is up, cool kids? I'm Cool Trainer Gavin, and if you remember back to the, 2018, this is what 2018 is going to be like video on, I think, the first or second of this year, I don't remember. I talked about 3 new series that I was starting. The Aglock, which has been going great so far. The Pokenatomy, which has also been going really great. I'm really glad that you guys like that series. I really do appreciate it. And a series talking about the science of Pokemon. I decided to shift that last series a little bit into what we're going to be talking about today. And that's going to be specifically fossil Pokemon and sort of geology-based things around Pokemon. Because Pokenatomy talks more about biology, where I'm also a trained geologist as well. And fossils fall under the realm of earth science, as opposed to biology. It's sort of a weird mixture of the two. So for a fan game that I was working on, the game sort of similar to Pokemon Uranium or Pokemon Reborn or games like that, I've been working on one, and the game has been focused around fossil Pokemon and what they would be like in real life. Because I have a theory that fossil Pokemon were not always rock type. My theory is that Pokemon become rock type when they are fossilized. So today we will be reviewing Omastar and what I think it was like when it was alive. So just like Pokenatomy, we will be going to Omastar's Bulbapedia page and looking at some things on there to see if we can get some inspiration for what Omastar may have been like when it was alive. So under the biology part of Omastar's Bulbapedia page, it says Omastar is a sky blue ammonite Pokemon with several tentacles and a pale yellow helix-shaped shell on its back. If you don't know what an ammonite is, it's basically a relative of modern-day squids and octopus, but they had a large curled shell, and I'll probably throw a picture on there at some point. But they were very, very common in the same time period that dinosaurs were around. Several sharp spikes line the shell's midsection, spanning from its forefront to just a little toward its back. The shell constantly grows, getting heavier over time and thus limiting its mobility. It is the weight of the shell that is most often cited as the cause for Omastar's extinction. The shell's helm has 2 circular indents where Omastar's eyes come out. It has yellow sclerae, which is in humans it's like the white part of your eyes, and vertically slit pupils. That's an adaptation for animals to see in the dark. It has an oval mouth and 4 wide jawed and a 4-way jawed, fang-like beak. Once caught, it never lets go of prey, immediately biting down on its victim with immense power. Before its own shell led to its extinction, Omastar swam the seas in search of prey. Even the hard shells of prehistoric shelter stood no match for Omastar's deadly powerful bite, and were quickly made a meal of by having their insides sucked out. That is very similar to how octopi and squid also eat. Now, of all of the things that sort of caught my eye in that section was that it has vertically split pupils, which, like I said, are an adaptation for seeing in the dark. Ammonites were pretty much surface dwellers usually. You can tell just by the type of rock that they're usually preserved in that they hung out in relatively shallow waters, but they would have no need for vertically slit pupils if they were toward the surface of the water. So that leads me to believe that Omastar, because it was so heavy and its shell grew so large that it sunk down to the bottom, which is pretty heavily cited as to have happened. I think Omastar would have been a water dark type, and here's what I think it may have looked like. First, let's take a look at Omanite, because looking at Omanite, you can tell a lot of things about Omastar. I decided to change its shell pattern from just like segmented tannish yellow color to an alternating dark gray, light gray color scheme. And that would help it blend in more on the dark depths of the ocean, which I think it lived, as opposed to actually swimming around. And you can tell that because the way Omanite's tentacles look, it seems like it would use them to crawl around as opposed to swim around like an ammonite actually would. It's very hard to notice, but I also gave its tentacles sort of like a dark gray tip to them. To be perfectly honest, I don't remember why I did this. I made all this art probably 6-7 months ago at this point. But that is something that I chose to do as well. I think I also made the blue a little bit darker of its tentacles, just to, again, help it blend in on the bottom of the seafloor. Now moving on to Omastar, I did quite a few things differently. As opposed to just doing the same thing and changing the color scheme of the entire shell, I changed the color scheme of the shell to a darker gray and a basically darker gray alternating patterns, as well as giving the spikes, the end of its tentacles, and its beak sort of like a glowing texture. Because I think if Omastar lived on the bottom, like I think it may have, that might have been how it caught its prey, because you know, it's pretty well cited that it couldn't swim very well, which is why it went extinct. So I think it would have to lure its prey in somehow, which is what the tentacles were for. Because in the dark depths of the ocean, red light is very commonly used to attract prey. So I think it would sort of just like wave its glowing tentacles and wait for a fish to come by, and then it would lash out with them quickly, grab it, and pull it into the beak. And as for being a water dark type, I think that makes a lot more sense than a water rock type, because while its defense is its strongest stat, if it was living on the bottom of the seafloor, I think a dark type would be a lot, you know, more sensible than being a rock type. I also think its stats may have been a little bit different too. Maybe instead of being more of a special attacker, having higher special attack, may have had slightly higher attack stat. Because it would not be, you know, shooting water at its prey to capture it. Instead, it would be luring it in and then lashing out to physically grab it, as well as having access to moves like Crunch and other dark type moves, because it does already get Bite, but I don't believe that it gets Crunch in the current, you know, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon game. So let me know what you guys think about this theory. What are your thoughts on fossil Pokemon? Next week, we will be going over Kabutops and Kabuto. So we will be going basically down the spectra of fossil Pokemon all the way until Gen 6, because for some reason Gen 7 did not have them, which I may or may not talk about in a separate video. Who knows? But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video as much as I did, please like and or subscribe. Follow me on Twitter and Twitch at CoolTrainerGav. And until next time, smell you later.